G'day folks, I'm Mitchell Dale. This is Rugby League Week's Friday Arvo Footy. Joined on the couch today by Martin Lenihan, Eric Groth. Thank you for joining us, boys. Now, we've had a couple of days to digest Origin 2. I still think it was a bludger of a game until probably the last 20 minutes. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, mate, you could forgive somebody who's not into their footy for switching off, you know, if that was the first game of footy they watched after 50 minutes, but they'd be glad if they held on because that last 5 minutes was just awe-inspiring, mate. I've never had tingles for a game I wasn't involved in at the finish of that game. That was just incredible to watch that pandemonium.
Not just the Blues, as well on the attack. Queensland's defence, it was pretty staunch, and they did eventually crack, like we've seen them do to New South Wales so many times.
I think that's been the trademark of this series, really. The defence of both sides has been phenomenal, heroic. It's interesting you talk about people who are not necessarily footy fans. I've got a lot of friends in Melbourne. They absolutely love Origin. Even this week, they still thought that was a cracker. They don't have State of Origin themselves, so I think they realised the passion, the emotion. They loved it. We were there. I thought it was an outstanding. I think New South Wales, the difference for me this year is the little moments where they don't give up tries. I think like the Cherry Evans grubber was a great play, but it was cleaned up. They're cleaning up a lot more of those things now. Their attitude's a lot better, I think, and they've got the money.
Yeah, you mentioned the emotion and the passion. I guess from that, it did descend into the niggle a little bit. I think the tone was set pretty early on. We saw Paul Gallen come down on Billy Slater. It was replayed. The ref said play on. That was basically the green light for all the boys to throw in the little cheeky, niggly stuff, and it didn't stop until the final whistle.
Yeah, it didn't exactly eventuate into a full-blown fight, which is a lot of people want to see. I must admit I like seeing a little bit of it. I think they should have maybe just got that out the way at the start, given the penalties, and then got on with it, but it just kind of carried out through the game. There was a lot of stoppages because of it, and yeah, it never really eventuated. But there was something in the air. Before the game I did a function for VB, and they were all the Batchies Blues were there, and they were just going crazy, and I was there the year before and it just wasn't like that. This year was just something special about it. I thought, there's something special about this evening, and mate, that ending was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, again, going back to the niggle, right up until the 80th minute almost, Jonathan Thurston and Josh Reynolds were going at each other. I've got to say, Josh Reynolds got under Jonathan Thurston's skin, I thought, a little bit. Very uncharacteristic for Thurston to react.
Yeah, look, I think Josh Reynolds was up for it. He knew they were coming for him. He spoke about it before the game after the tackle on Brent Tate. JT way down in this series, you've got to say. Brian Smith mentioned it on this couch last week about Smith and Thurston. Some of his plays on Wednesday night were pretty poor, and I think Reynolds, he didn't have a great game himself in terms of driving New South Wales around, but he did what he was meant to do, and he really unsettled one of the best players in the game.
Well, thank God they're human. Like, finally, they're starting to show signs of being a human. They've been on top and excelling for so long, and number one in the game for so long. Like, I was just starting to wonder, you know, have they got like Terminator skeletal system underneath their skin there? But yeah, it's good to know they're human, and it's possible to beat them, because if they had won this one, I just don't know what would have happened.
We don't know when New South Wales would have been able to crack them. Interestingly, at full time, the Queenslanders got together in a very long huddle. Would have been very interesting to hear what they had to say. Probably still would have said be proud of the past 8 years, and it will lead to a very interesting Game 3. Boys, do you think they'll make any changes? Queenslanders are very loyal. They won't make wholesale changes. Would they look to bludder Anthony Milford or something like that off the bench?
Well, Mal Meninga was saying on the way home in the press conference on the radio, he was saying that they're not going to change the team. He laughed at the suggestion, so you know, it'd be interesting to see what he comes up with there. I don't think you need to, but it wouldn't be a bad tactic to blood some young fresh guys. I think that's a good move.
I think Brent Tate was obviously not in a good way after the game, so he may not be there. I think Milford would be a great choice. Dave Taylor, very little impact, but look, they're going to stick solid. They're going to go up there at home. They know all their fans will turn out for them, and geez, there's a lot on the line for them.
Mate, they did so well, Queensland. Like, you know, everyone's focusing on, it's over now and New South Wales are great and all that, but what about that last 8 years, mate? And their defence last night, up until like halfway through the second half, I thought Queensland had it wrapped up. They contained Hayne beautifully. They were sliding on their defence, and there was never a one-on-one. Hayne could never get a one-on-one with anyone. It looked like they were just going to run away with the game, and just good old Hocko just does the show and go there. I actually think the double pump from dummy half when Robbie Farah did it kind of put Cherry Evans off a little bit, and he overcompensated and chased, and that opened up the gap there for Hocko to score the end try. And mate, it was just pandemonium.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Jonathan Thurston. You mentioned Jared Hayne. I thought Jonathan Thurston did a very good job on him defensively. Hayne got through him a few times in game 1, not so much game 2. Anyway, we'll go ahead to game 3. It will be a fiery game up there at Suncorp. Can Queensland bounce back and grab one game this year? Right, moving on to tonight, boys. Big game for Canberra. They don't get too many home games on a Friday night. They take on a Bulldogs side who are desperate to get back into the winner's circle. Now, we caught up with a couple of the Raiders this week talking about their big game tonight.
Desi, as their coach, he's going to have them fired up coming down here. So, we've got to start the game well and play out the whole 80 minutes and, like I said, contain their forwards and just try and limit their halves opportunity off the back of that.
We haven't been great, I guess, but it's somewhere we've really worked hard on our defence on both edge and in the middle. I think our middle boys will be up for the challenge against their big boys, and it's up to the edges this week to really get up and get stuck into them.
We have to get our season back on track as well. We desperately need a win, and it starts this Friday night. Hopefully, big crowd turns up. It's a 94 grand final reunion as well, so it'll be good to definitely get out there and get the win for all the old players that are going to be at the game.
Yeah, must win for both sides, really. The Bulldogs, for different reasons. I mean, Canberra, they really need to try and climb their way into top 8 contention. The Bulldogs, they need to try and regain some momentum because they have lost it throughout the Origin period.
Yeah, Bulldogs back to full strength, you'd think, and it's Canberra pretty much have to win. Otherwise, I don't know, you pretty much kiss it goodbye, I think, for this year. Mate, I'm going to tip Canberra. I think they're going to upset. I think there's a little bit of disruption there with the halves from Origin and a bit of an Origin hangover. I think Canberra might do it.
Yeah, look, I think the big thing for the Dogs, obviously, the two halves get a lot of confidence out of what happened in Origin. They go back. They were very poor. The 2 games they've had to play without there. Of course, you take the halves out of any team. They've really struggled. Michael Ennis had to go into the halves. I think those guys are going to be right on fire, Reynolds and Hodkinson. So, for me, I think probably the Dogs, they've got to get back on track. I reckon they'll get the money. Yeah,
look, freezing night in Canberra. I'm sure it's not going to be too comfortable for the Dogs. I will take Canterbury, though, for the reasons that Martin pointed out. I think the halves will really they'll grow an extra leg after Wednesday night. So, Eric, once again, I'm disagreeing with you.
I'm used to it, mate, and you're usually wrong, so it doesn't bother me one bit.
We'll see later on tonight, won't we? Okay, very interesting story in Rugby League Week this week, boys. Tony Adams had a chat to Liam Fulton, really opening up about the whole issue with his head knocks. He's had 4 this year. He's unlikely to play again for the rest of the year. The Tigers are going to make the choice to stand him down. He's basically said, look, he has had to now consider the prospect of retiring. He doesn't want to, but he's admitted that it's more than just him. He's got his family to think about. Pretty scary times whenever, especially for footballers, when you do cop a couple of concussions like that.
Mate, 100%. There's no way in the world, looking from the outside in, I think he should just call it quits. He's had a great career, mate. Everyone loves Fultz. He's a champion bloke, and he's a life of a party. And if you want to have some longevity and some quality of life, you can't keep getting knocked out like that, mate. I'd call it quits. It's not like he's going to stop and the money stops kind of thing. A lot of people get scared about that. It sounds a bit silly to say that, but he's got a contract for the next couple of years, I'm pretty sure, and he'll get paid out his money because he got his concussions playing football. So he's got to think about his family and his future, because you don't want to be getting to 50, 60-year-old and not knowing what your child's name is and things like that, man. That happens, unfortunately. I've had 4 concussions over my career, and it's changed me a little bit. Like, every now and then, if I'm at training or, do some big efforts, so to speak, I'll get a little bit blurry and things are a little bit different. It's hard to explain, but maybe surreal's the best word for it. And sometimes I'll be driving along and it'll just happen out of nowhere, and it feels kind of like you've maybe had a couple of drinks or something. You just don't feel clear and on your game as much as you would when you're sober, so to speak. So, yeah, mate, it's a scary feeling.
I was going to say that is pretty scary.
It is scary. I get migraine headaches, and ever since I got knocked out at training, I got a concussion. Nathan Cahill said accidental shoulder, hit my chin, and I've seen some blurry colours, and then I didn't know what it was because the first time it happened, and then about an hour later, I was in hospital, and anyone who gets migraine headaches knows, mate, it's the worst feeling in the world. It dead set feels like you got brain freeze from ice cream headache for like 4 hours, and you feel nauseous, and I get them every now and then randomly. So that's all as a result of a knock on the chin. So, mate, it's not good. It's not good at all, and it's something I've gone and tried to find out about, and it's one of those wonders of the world. I just can't give you a permanent cure for it.
He can't be enjoying his footy, can he? Like, he's a guy that loves life, as you said, life of the party. It can't have been any fun for him this year. And as you said, I don't think there's any future for him in pushing on and going through this. The concussion rules now are obviously a lot more stringent with it, which they have to be. They're doing a much better job now of looking after guys. I can't see him coming back, and you wouldn't want him to, I think, with what he's going through.
Well, it can cause massive depression as well. That's a scary thing. And I know guys who've just finished football and they go through the post-career depression. And if you have head knocks on top of that, mate, it could just spell disaster. It might not, but yeah, mate, I'm worried about him. I hope he's had a good think about it, and I hope he steps down, mate, because he's had a great career. He's been around the game forever. It's like he's 45 and he's still playing. He's had such an illustrious career, mate. Won a grand final, like, mate.
As you say, he is a real personality player that you don't find too many blokes in the game, especially blokes he's played with that have a bad word to say about him. He's the sort of guy that should be still in the football system in some capacity when he's not playing. So, yeah, look, very interesting. Probably you would say it's a difficult time because I'm sure he doesn't want to stop playing.
Well, he loves it so much, and everyone who speaks to him, I speak to Bryce Gibbs about him a lot, and he says, mate, he loves football and he wants to be around it. So, like you said, just be involved in another way. He'd be great to have around just for camaraderie sake, So, mate, keep him in there and just give it a miss, mate. He's had a great career. I don't want to see him get crook as he gets older.
Yeah, definitely. Look, the full story's in Rugby League week this week, but certainly an interesting one there on Liam Fulton. Change of pace now, that time of the week. Eric, Encouragement Award, what have you got?
Oh, this just feels right when it's here, doesn't it? It looks right, doesn't it?
It does.
It's home, it's at home. Good. This week's Encouragement Award goes to Aaron Woods for telling the truth and being very honest about not touching the ball from the kickoff in the Origin. Good on you, Woodsy. Very honest of you, mate.
Yeah. All right, that's it for Rugby League Week's Friday Arvo Footy this week. Thank you, Leno. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Boot. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week.